IKEA is one of the only places where you can walk in for a $2 spatula and end up leaving with a full living room set, 5 plants and a cinnamon bun. And so, in order to save you from a wasted weekend and a living room that's full of regret, I'm going to share with you 10 of the top new timeless IKEA pieces that you can purchase this year.
TONSTAD.
Firstly, I think it's pretty clear that unless you're Swedish, good luck pronouncing any of these names without sounding completely pretentious. So, in order to save face, this
TONSTAD
has been an addition that I think punches way above its weight. Here in North America, you can get this in 4 sizes: twin, double, queen, and king, and you can get it in 3 colors, which are brown stained oak, oak, and off-white. And except for the twin, these feature 2 thoughtfully placed soft closed drawers on both sides that leave a gap at the head in order to allow space for a bedside table. And on top of this, it also has slat rails that can be adjusted in height in case you use a mattress that's as thick as your patience for assembling flat pack furniture. Functionally, this makes this bed a lot more usable than plastic boxes underneath stuffed with Christmas decorations and last season's wardrobe. But from a purely aesthetic viewpoint, what makes the
TONSTAD
great is that 2 of these options use wood veneer. Now, unlike your neighbour's questionable dental work, veneer is pretty standard when purchasing wood furniture, as it's significantly cheaper than solid wood. And so right now, my guess is that you're probably wondering, how is it that IKEA undercuts their competitors so much on products like this? And as you might guess, besides having a near worldwide affordable furniture monopoly, the answer is by sneakily cutting costs. And so here on the
TONSTAD,
on the parts of the bed that you don't see, like the drawers which are on the inside, these are made from their typical paper and plastic foil covered particle board that we're so used to seeing on IKEA's other budget products like their mom dresses and Alex drawers. And then for the legs, instead of making these out of solid oak like their more expensive alternatives might, they again use an alternate wood like pine that's much cheaper, which is then covered with this thin oak veneer, which when implemented on the right design works particularly well. And because this cost cutting takes place in areas that you're the least likely to interact with, it actually means that you end up with a wooden storage bed that looks and feels, for the most part, far more expensive than it actually is, with a clean and tasteful, timeless aesthetic.
SKONABACK.
Now, I think that this sofa is kind of like that quiet person at the party who suddenly bursts out with an absolutely insane karaoke performance. Because for some reason, absolutely nobody seems to be talking about this. At first glance, it's quiet and unassuming, and even a little bit boring, with 2 unassuming colours and one that's a little bit more questionable. But the
SKONABACK
does something that I've never seen a sofa do before, which is extend, where the underside of this sofa slides out like a box of eclairs to reveal a buttload of hidden storage that's then covered by the sofa arm to create a whole new section for seating, which I think is absolutely genius. For some reason, IKEA advertised this as a sleeper sofa, but I don't really think that this name does it justice, as just because a sofa is long enough to sleep on, this doesn't really make it a sleeper sofa. And really, where this sofa shines is in small apartments that aren't quite big enough to justify a 3-seater sofa, but also not quite small enough to disregard one completely for that one time that you have your family or guests over for dinner or coffee. As when paired with something like an extendable dining table, this can allow you to extend the sofa into the extra space that a shortened extendable dining table would free up. And then you can do the same thing, but vice versa. And then for the 95% of the year that neither need to be extended, instead of feeling like you're living in a tight and awkward home, you get to enjoy a far more generous and open living space. Or simply a space that you can adapt to the way that you and your family find yourself naturally wanting to use it. And along with its hidden storage and durable fabric choices, I think that this may make the
SKONABACK
one of IKEA's very best new options for the space-savvy and insightful apartment dweller.
GUTTANE.
Now, this is one of those IKEA pieces that is a remake of an IKEA classic, and thankfully, it's one that's more like June than it is Snow White. which by respecting its source material is a truly mid-century modern piece that boasts a solid oak construction, at a price that's less than half the cost of the majority of its competition. Again, this is achieved by sneaky yet effective cost cutting from IKEA, paired with a timeless design that I think looks fantastic. Where to create this illusion of being solid oak, this is done in the most prominent areas, which here are the legs and the side rails, which are a design feature that hides the fact that the tabletop is made up of, you guessed it, oak veneered particle board, which reduces its cost and its weight, which in turn further reduces how expensive a table like this is to ship and transport. Now, some reviewers that are clearly a little bit out of touch with the price of wood this decade were complaining about the fact that the tabletop isn't solid. But at this price, IKEA might as well start giving away their furniture for free. Where what these reviewers are really complaining about is the fact that it doesn't feel solid, as veneered particle board is significantly lighter than veneered MDF, which tends to be the material that the majority of other veneered coffee tables use. Now, I have to agree that this is definitely a shame, as personally, I'd be happy to spend more for IKEA to sell me this illusion better. But I do understand why IKEA do this, as weight plays a huge role in their affordable flat pack furniture model. But really, what I think is absolutely genius about this table is that the solid wood side rails hide a large portion of the veneered edges, which tends to display the mismatched wood grain that makes veneered tables look cheap, while also hiding and protecting it with a solid wood design feature at the locations where veneer tends to be the most vulnerable to chipping. But before we move on, one thing to watch out for is that despite looking a bit like a bench, with a max load of 25 kilos, it won't take the weight of your drunk uncle after a big holiday dinner, which definitely makes it more suited to a stack of magazines. And I also do think it's unfortunate that there's a teeny tiny visible fixture hiding down by the table's stretcher. However, for how it looks and its price, I can totally forgive it. And from what I can see, there's really not much else out there that offers the appearance of solid oak with a timeless design at such a competitive price point.
JARRESTAD.
Despite what people may say about them, I love ottomans because they're kind of like the sidekicks of the furniture world. Always there when you need them, but never really stealing the spotlight. Whether that's a place to put up your feet, or an extra seat, or a spot for your coffee, their versatility is absolutely unrivaled. However, the only thing that can make these even better is if they can function as a black hole for your kids' toys and blankets. And for some reason, IKEA seem to be the only company that's offering this with a classy, minimal, and timeless design with their new
JARRESTAD.
Now, in my opinion, this would look way better if it was entirely cylindrical, instead of looking a bit like a soggy, oversized marshmallow. And I do think that the stitching and lining could be a little bit better. But in all honesty, I can forgive it, as with the hidden storage, this makes it what I'm going to coin as a super ottoman. And until someone comes out with a better looking one, in my opinion, this may be one of the very best discreet and multifunctional living room storage furniture items that you can possibly buy. Which is also the reason why one now has a spot in our living room over there as a place to quickly absorb all of the toys that our little girl tends to bring out and leave all over the place.
JALSO.
Another item for this year, which is a remake of a mid-century modernist IKEA classic, is the
JALSO.
And much like the RYD that it reinterprets from 1990, it features a solid pine frame and suspended fabric seat, which gives it an incredibly compact and lightweight form factor, which makes it the ideal accent chair to fit in small spaces. Now, IKEA are particularly strong in this area when it comes to wooden lounge chairs, with so many impressive options from previous years. So this one is a little bit of a hard sell for me because of all of those visible fixings. However, I simply had to include it as it's the sort of item that looks absolutely perfect when it's in the right space, where with some alternative countersunk screws or dowels and a little bit of wood glue and filler, this might be an effective way to end up with a really rather aesthetic piece which kind of reminds me of designer classics such as the T1 and Fredericia canvas chair. And because it's solid wood, it can be infinitely refinished and customized to suit any interior, which makes this an affordable, lightweight, and timeless piece that contributes to an illusion of space for people who really appreciate mid-century modernist design.
GULLSUDARE.
Now, there's really not that much to say about this one, but seeing as one of my very favorite designer pendant lights are the Formikami paper lanterns, which are not cheap, this makes the
GULLSUDARE.
look a little bit like a steal. Now, I like these because when compared to other kinds of pendant lampshades, these lanterns emit a soft light by diffusing and enlarging the light source, which is generally more relaxing to be around and more flattering too, which does make them especially desirable for the overly enthusiastic selfie taker or the aspiring content creator. And here IKEA manages to offer these timeless shades with a price, aesthetic, and now a size that can completely transform the way that a room feels.
SPETSBOJ.
This great little table lamp comes in 3 different colors and a glossy finish, but what's clever about it is that this one has a manual dimming feature that uses a hidden iris that controls the amount of light that leaves the unit by simply twisting the lampshade kind of like a kaleidoscope. And what this means is that you're not required to purchase an expensive smart remote or a dimmer switch to control the light level, as you can simply use a regular bulb, which is enough to reduce the overall cost of a dimmable lamp like this by nearly half. At this price, I think that this item is an absolute steal, as it's also metal while being paired with a really elegant and timeless aesthetic that isn't cluttered with visible fixtures or cheap inline switches like some of IKEA's other lamps, as this one has a flush integrated clickable switch that's very discreet and satisfying to use. Personally, instead of these colours and finishes, I just wish that they'd offered it in satin black, gold and chrome instead, as this would make the product look so much cleaner. As I really think that these bright and glossy finishes tends to make things look a little bit plasticky in comparison. I suppose if you really wanted, this is something that you could try and do yourself. And when considering the fact that my local IKEA is already out of stock of these, when it comes to both the price and the design features, I think that many people agree that this is really a lamp which is very hard to beat.
GLAMBERGET.
This is a new daybed from IKEA who are, in my mind, undoubtedly the GOAT when it comes to this particular furniture item. But what makes this one different is that it's made from solid pine rather than particle board, which seems to be a trend with quite a few of their new designs this year. Now, what makes daybeds great is that in a bedroom, these can essentially allow the main bed to half in size, which frees up space for things like a desk or a workout area. And even when used as a main bed like ours, it allows you and your partner to customize each side to your own needs by individually picking the firmness of each twin mattress. But when it comes to the
GLAMBERGET.
without a headboard, this means that it has a design that doesn't restrict where it can and can't be placed, which means that it can adapt to the various living situations that you and your family face as you grow. And of course, because it's solid wood instead of particle board, it's likely to wear better and last longer too, while also accommodating painting and staining in order to make it more unique, which really fits into the growing trend of hacking popular IKEA products in order to make them a little bit less recognizable. Which means that when done well, you can quite easily make a solid pine piece of furniture look far more expensive than it actually is, or just end up completely ruining it. But when considering that this piece does a great job of hiding visible fixtures on a very minimalist and idiot-proof design, I think it earns a spot on this list as a truly durable and versatile timeless item.
RASKOG.
Now, the
RASKOG
is a product that you may have already seen in some of my previous videos, as it once had a place in my office, and now it has a place in my daughter's room for all of her toys. But at some point between the end of last year and the start of this year, at least in Canada, IKEA discreetly updated it with brakes and a new smaller size, for the sole purpose of it being able to fit underneath a desk. Now, what I think makes this product great, especially in office spaces, is that there are just so many things that you frequently need on hand. And because even the best of us get lazy from time to time, it's so easy for these things to end up cluttering our desks. But with a utility cart, this gives you the freedom to keep everything quickly on hand with minimal friction, while even having the ability to move it around the room with you, which is especially useful for someone like me who works frequently with cameras, and I imagine it would be equally useful for artists and designers too, as you move around from tool to tool and from task to task. And really, this is still the case even if you end up leaving everything in an unsightly pile on your desk anyway. But because it's so hard to end with just one product, I just want to highlight how good IKEA's ceramics and glassware section is this year, as I think they're really beginning to nail the handmade aesthetic with these more affordable pieces. By continuing to introduce more pigmented and glazed ceramic finishes, these create unique and natural variations to each piece. And this year, IKEA are even offering some more expensive, genuinely handmade pieces, which is quite surprising. And when it comes to their glassware too, there's some really characterful tinted glass editions as well, which feature contrasting colors that highlight the way that they're constructed, which I think is a really nice touch. And by celebrating these natural imperfections and variations, this, kind of like real art versus AI art, conveys the human touch, even if these are products which are mass manufactured in order to keep costs low. And because of this, this makes items feel, even if it's subconsciously, more unique and a bit less cheap and disposable. And really, I suppose that's what makes IKEA so successful, as they may not be the best products out there, but if you look carefully, some products do a great job of hitting that sweet spot where you can find the most possible bang for your buck. But finally, before I go, I want to say a huge thank you to the sponsors of today's video, Bellroy. Much like the furniture that I choose for my own home, I have a deep appreciation for items that hit that sweet spot for functionality and affordability. And when it comes to travel and my everyday carry, there's no company that does it quite like Bellroy does. With streamlined bags with clever storage compartments for all of your everyday tech and personal items, to inventive wallets and premium organizers that beautifully tame the clutter and wasted space that often runs rampant in our bags and wallets, Bellroy products are packed with clever touches, whether it's taking trips to the office or hitting up your nearest trail, all while using sustainable materials and production methods as a certified B Corp. So to learn more, be sure to check out Bellroy using the link down in the video description and get 10% off your entire purchase or 20% off my lightweight travel bundle with 2 of my favorite lightweight bags. And of course, finally, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be sure to see you in the next one.